I am laughing at the title of today's program. Welcome to another week on the sheet, by the way. Laughing at the title of today's show, which is always the exclusive domain of Zach Phillips. The dog is barking because we're talking to Conor McGahey later on. Play-by-play voice of the Colorado Avalanche. Great game Sunday. Oh, Colorado-Dallas was so good. Give me that. Give me game 7 of that all day long. The dog is barking. It's the title of today's show. It's almost as if young Philly was buckled this weekend. Hasn't shaken off the cobwebs. Maybe buckled at work. I don't know. But all I know is if I were a Maple Leafs fan, after that thing on Saturday, whatever that thing was,
I cannot confirm or deny the allegations regarding Saturday night's post-game stream.
How was it, bud? I was zipping all over watching a ton of other stuff. I missed the post-game show, and I love to get in there and rile it up in the chat. Give us the time and temp. Give us the nickel and dime tour.
So here's how this started, okay?
Yeah.
St.
We're going to try to stick
Day
to time today, by the way. We're going to try to stick to time today, okay?
We'll make it quick on this. But I got a text from our bosses. We've got an idea. We're close to 15,000 subscribers. It's St. Patrick's Day. It's game 66. How about you get 2 6-packs, and for every combination of likes, subscribers, and then super chats, you chug a beer on stream.
Oh,
well, that's all fine and dandy until the Leafs lose to the Senators 4-2. In a sad effort. Yeah, the temperature was hot. Let's put it that way. Hot.
At least you didn't have to leave your house. That you'd probably just went right from your host chair to the bed, just crawled over. We're gonna do some Leafs talk a little bit later on with Shayna Goldman from the Too Many Men podcast and The Athletic as well. She's gonna stop by here in a couple of moments. Let's just tee up the show here and then go over a few things because I don't know what got into me this morning. If you're watching live, if you're listening, archive or live, I don't know what got into me this morning, but I just started zipping off all these texts to Philly. Oh, we need this board. We need that board. We need this. I don't know why I was so horny for boards today. I have no idea. I just woke up thinking Philly's got to make all these boards. So damn it, because you put the work in, I'm going to make sure we get to all these boards. Because most, I'm not going to say all, most of them have a point attached to them. Okay, how about that? Let's get to the show here today. Daily Outlines presented by our friends and partners at FanDuel, North America's #1 sportsbook app provider. Trust me, we're going to make it entertaining today for you. Don't worry. It won't just be as self-indulgent as we've been lately. Shaina Goldman, as I mentioned, from the Too Many Men podcast and The Athletic, will stop by here in about 5 or 6, maybe 7 minutes time. Conor McGahey, Avalanche play-by-play voice. Colorado looks really good. There's just no denying it. Stay healthy, and this team is going to do some damage. Speaking of doing damage, the Montreal Canadiens, can they do this? Huge game tomorrow against the Ottawa Senators, who have been outstanding themselves. Montreal is buzzing. We'll talk about Nick Suzuki and that top line. Probably start us off by talking about that with Shayna coming up in a couple of moments. I'm sure she has a thought. Mention the Avs. They are indeed, yes, Philly, they are a wagon right now. And that game against Dallas, man, give me all of that. And then we're going to talk about sticks, specifically colored sticks. And a pretty cool idea that was floated my way that I threw into the blog as well from one of our sheetheads. We'll get to that here in a couple of moments. In the meantime, where do you want to start with boards and viz? Actually, you know what? Here, I'm going to call the auto right away. Here's what I want to show. You watch the whole weekend's worth of stuff. A lot of things are amazing. Like that Buffalo-Vegas game on Saturday was outstanding. It was awesome. I am happy for Buffalo. We're going to get to that in a couple of seconds. I was happy for that brief moment in time when the Buffalo Sabres looked like they were going to lose at the hands of a Jack Eichel goal, salvage it, and end up winning and hand it to the Sabres fans that were there because it really did feel like the crowd was 50-50 split between the Sabres and the Vegas Golden Knights. But every time Eichel touched the puck, Sabres fans, once again, reminded him how they felt about him. And that smile on Eichel's face when he scored what thought was going to be the game-winning goal
yeah, I know.
was a thing of beauty, a thing of hockey beauty. But, the one thing that stood out to me this weekend was a brief moment yesterday. And again, this is another Vegas game. Vegas had a tough weekend, folks. They lost to Buffalo, and they lost to Detroit. We've talked about the Red Wings and what's on the horizon and how they're building this. And I understand that Red Wings fans are disappointed. I know Red Wings fans are frustrated. When is it going to end? When is it going to end? We got to get back to the playoffs. We got a relatively brand new building here, and we haven't seen a playoff game yet. I understand and feel your pain. But something really cool happened on the weekend. Like, Brayden McNabb hits like few others in the NHL. Like, you've been hit hard when Brayden McNabb catches you. He is a large gentleman patrolling that blue line for the Vegas Golden Knights. And 99.99% of NHLers would have been completely wiped out with this attempted hit on Sunday, except for Elmer Soderblom. Watch him as he comes over the blue line. And who goes down in that collision? I'm sure we're going to see it again here. Normally, McNabb wipes out whoever he's running into. Elmer Soderblom. King Elmer, as they call him in Detroit.
Lord Elmer, was that what it was?
Lord Elmer, that's it. Not King. Not King quite yet. Lord Elmer, I apologize. Just runs him over like it ain't no thing. Like, that's Brayden McNabb.
Yeah.
I threw in the blog that, when a coach texted me when he saw it and said, can you imagine when he gets angry or when he gets a mean streak? Like, that's just like Elmer Soderblom, like, just having fun. I'm just out here playing hockey. This is cool. When he gets angry. Like I always make this sort of, kind of halfway joke about Chara should have always won the Lady Byng. Not for what he did, but what he chose not to do. He could have laid waste to the NHL, but he was such a nice guy that he didn't. That, to me, is what a Lady Bynger should be, and that's why Chara should have won it every single year. Can you imagine if this guy ever gets a nasty streak in him? Anyhow, that was like the moment of I'm a simple person. I get amused and tickled by tiny little simple things in hockey. And that did it for me right away. This is going to be bad. Oh, no, it's not at all. Elmer Soderblom.
Yeah.
My first star of the week.
First star of the week, eh? Weekend. Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. No, I saw you tweet about it and went to try to find it right away. As I kind of just detailed, Saturday night was a little bit of a hectic one for me, so Sunday was a little in and out.
Were you moving
sleepy.
Slow?
Yeah, a little bit. So
now, are you a get up and get in a good sweat, or are you a get up and bite the dog back kind of guy?
I'm a sleep in and then get the sweat in usually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. The other thing that I wanted to mention here is, and we got a lot of time to get into some of the great teams that are existing in the NHL right now and some of the disappointing teams, but there's always the hue and cry about changing the playoff format. Oh, we got to get away from this. Got to go to the 1 versus 8. Got to escape this. Can't keep doing this over and over again. So, board number 1 today, maybe we'll do this weekly. Just how to look at what if you switched from the wild card format that we have now to a 1 to 8. Okay, 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7. You get the rhythm here. This is what it would look like if the playoffs started right now. We're starting which conference?
Let's go East.
Okay, so we'll start with the East, where pretty much nothing has changed. Under the current format, it's Capitals and Rangers, 1v8, Capitals, Rangers. Under the current format, Florida faces off against Ottawa. In the 1v8, they face off against New Jersey. In the current, Carolina faces off against the Devils, Carolina versus Ottawa. So New Jersey and Ottawa flip, and Toronto still plays the Tampa Bay Lightning. So not exactly a whole world of difference here. If all of a sudden you switch from the wild card format to the 1v8. Now, if we go to the Western Conference quickly, we do see some movement, although we do see some similarity as well. You're still going to get Winnipeg facing off against Vancouver. In the current format, this may be worth it right here, just to keep the current format. We got Dallas and Colorado at what should be their healthiest, round 1. And I'm one of those guys, by the way, that says, I want the best teams to face off against each other early. I don't want to wait till they're all banged up and they're just coasting on fumes in the Stanley Cup final or the conference final. I want Colorado at their healthiest, and I want Dallas at their healthiest. The 1v8 format, Dallas faces off against Minnesota. There's one person out there that hates when I say this, but that's the reason I'm going to say it. We'll call it the Norm Green Cup. Vegas faces off against Minnesota in the current format. If the playoffs started today, Vegas faces off against the red-hot Los Angeles Kings. In the current format, LA Kings face off against the Edmonton Oilers. The sound of yawns. Although I wonder if it'd be a different outcome. And in the 1v8, it is Avalanche versus Oilers. So you're either losing McKinnon or McDavid, one way or the other in the 1v8 opening round. So not exactly as much difference as you would think if you change it. You have a thought on that one, Phil?
That's why you just go 1 versus 16. Yeah, I mean, it's the best way to do
Quebec League style. That's what I grew up with in the NHL, 1v16.
Like, I know it's a ridiculous suggestion.
League. Yeah.
It's more expensive. It's a lot of travel. But if we want to actually get people to stop complaining and driving up these conversations, that's probably the way to eliminate it. The reality is you're going to get very similar situations any way you shape these out. Sure, maybe 1 year compared to another, it might be a little bit more drastic. Like, the West is a bigger difference than the East there. But like you pointed out, by the way, Dallas, Colorado in one format, Colorado, Edmonton in the other.
Yeah.
But it's just like, pick your poison.
Did you, as hungover as you may have been on Sunday, by the way, Randy Workman would like to know just how hungover you were. As hungover as you may have been, like, you could still appreciate how great that game was.
Yes, I could. It wasn't too bad. I will say that. It wasn't too bad. And pretty responsible. Make sure to hydrate, mix in your waters here and there. I watched. I had to watch those. I had to watch the Johnny Laz game that he had hyped up the most leading into the weekends, the Oilers and Rangers. So checking in on those.
Tough one.
It's unreal hockey, but it's just very, very good hockey right now. I mean,
one more point about that Dallas Colorado game, and I want to show this viz as well. There was a moment in the game where Cale Makar is going around the net. Devon Toews is tied up with Mason Marchment, and you got the viz queued up here. Toews ends up getting tripped. Now, the officials think that it's Mason Marchment who's trying to make the play for the puck, when really it's Devon Toews who trips his own player. Mason Marchment gets the call. He goes off to serve two. Now, interesting with this one. So, got a DM from Todd Williams, who's active in the chat, listens, watches the show, the whole deal. He submits this one. Rule change idea. Force, I always love that, force stick manufacturers to make sticks in team colors so it's easier for the officials. Tripping, high sticking, etc., deflections. So you can see which stick actually tripped Cale Makar there. Because it's Toews' stick, but the officials think because him and Marchment are so close together that it's actually Mason Marchment that trips him. Now, the way that it works right now with colored sticks, I know Bauer and I assume CCM is the exact same. The way that they've redone all their colors for their personalized sticks, their signature series sticks. They have colors for every single team. So you could have it. So if you play for the San Jose Sharks and the team mandated, I don't even know if that would need to be collectively bargained. Maybe it would. We're talking about players' equipment. You could have like every player use a teal stick to make things easier. And it might kind of look cooler too. If you're Dallas, they're neon green. Right? Like, if they're Philadelphia, they're orange. Like, it might be kind of cool. Like, it might look interesting here. I don't believe, though, just one little tangent on colors. We'll use your team, for example, Philly, the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you have black skates, you have a black stick, for example, you're only allowed to use blue accents on it.
Okay.
You can't have like a yellow or an orange accent on your stick or your skates. I think that's pretty sure that's a team. That's a team color initiative. But what do you think of the idea here? And we'll get Shayna on board. Maybe we'll waste her time with this question too. What do you think of the idea of mandatory colored sticks reflecting the team to make things like tripping calls and high sticking easier to call, to say nothing of what it may just look like, which is probably pretty cool?
So I have no issue with it. I don't think that the color of the sticks or anything detracts from the game, which is like the most important thing for me, just the viewing experience. Yeah. The only pushback that I'm going to have on this is I don't actually know how much this helps. Like, you see that play develop in real time. Let's take that exact marchment play. I still don't know how much that helps.
I don't know. If you have a neon green stick, it's pretty obvious whose stick's in there.
Like, yes, it should be, but it also should have just been easy enough to see that was not Marchman's stick in that original play, I thought.
That's happening fast. Like, we're slowing this down and watching it, and we're all going like, oh, look at dummy there eating space cake. Can't make that call. Come on, man. I make that call all day long. I can see from here. I can see it from my couch in slow motion. How come you can't make that call in real time? That's a tough one.
I don't know. I guess maybe a couple calls here and there. I don't know how much it changes in the big picture, but maybe Shayna has a different
let me waste her time with this one to kick things off. Yeah, she's gonna love me now. She's Shaina Goldman, no stranger to this property here from the Too Many Men podcast and The Athletic. She joins me now. You ready for a stupid question to kick? Oh, by the way, that is a great sweater. Oh, I love that.
Wow, thank you.
Speaking of style, did you hear our conversation about colored sticks making it easier for officials to make calls, i.e. the Mason Marchment call from Sunday's excellent Colorado-Dallas game? Your thoughts?
I did hear. Okay, I'm not opposed. You're never going to hear me argue about making things more colorful and interesting on the ice, but I have two very strong opinions about this. Okay. One, I don't think we need to make things easier for the officials. I think the officials need to get sharper, and I think they need an eye in the sky to help calls before we start changing sticks to make life easier for them. Second of all, if we're going to be adding more color onto the ice, there are two other ways I think we should do this. I think everyone should get like that freedom to have like their own unique sticks. I think when you see like a white stick, it looks really cool. I know Alex Wemberg uses one, and sometimes like it fades into the ice, or I think of Marty St. Louis and the yellow stick. I would rather see more detail on skates and, more importantly, on helmets. Like the Red Wings helmets I keep thinking about from the Stadium Series. Why is that not the norm to have the logo, to have the stripe, to have something different? So before we get into the fun of designing sticks, like I want unique skates, I want unique helmets, and I want an eye in the sky official to help things.
Okay, so you've taken this to a whole new different place here that I don't have time to address. The eye in the sky one, I'm always hot and cold on, because I don't know that we need any more stoppages, or I don't know that we want stoppages to last any longer than they are. To me, mistakes are baked into the pie when it comes to hockey. Until I see the perfect hockey player, I don't expect the perfect official. You know, I'll tell you once. I was having this is the genesis of that comes from, Shane. I was playing in a beer league game, and I got a penalty for something, and I was like, oh man, it's like basically nothing. So I'm beaking at the referees. He's leading me to the box, and as he puts me in the box, he goes, "You want better officials?" I go, "Yeah, I want better officials because you stink." And he says, "If you want better officials, be a better hockey player. I'm the official you deserve. You're awful. You deserve me." So I was like, you know what? You got a really good point.
That's perfect, though.
I really can't argue that. I kind of laughed like, yeah, you know what? I got no comeback for that. You're 100% right. I do deserve you. I'm that bad. So I get I get the level of officiating that I have. And so that's why I keep saying, like, listen, I've not yet seen a perfect hockey player, so I can't expect a perfect official. Mistakes for me for officials.
Now. I have a good rebuttal for you.
Okay, here come the feelings.
First of all, beaking, very Canadian of you. Like, oh my God, was that a Canadian word? And the way you said it, oh my God. Second of all, I don't expect perfect officiating. And I don't think this is, add more video in. I think this is someone who can see plays, something that's egregious, and call down to an on-ice official to be like, that, you know, that's this kind of infraction. Maybe it speeds up the game a little bit if they get it right in the first place. Instead of, you know, an offside play that continues and leads to a goal against, maybe someone above will stop that play in the moment, and then you don't have to have 40 seconds of the game go on, a 9-minute review that gets no one anywhere. Like, what if this solves problems? It just helps. It adds more human element, and it just adds another perspective into it with a different viewpoint.
Which is why, again, we need an R&D summer camp every year to try out these rules to see if they work. I would imagine that if you have the eye in the sky, that fans might get frustrated. If all of a sudden, suddenly, there's a stoppage in play and there's a whistle from above or a horn from above, and it just ends the play
I think
right
the
there,
officials
and
need
you
an
don't know.
earpiece. I think it would be weird. I think it would be very odd to have a whistle from above. We can't have that.
So then
who knows where the whistle would come from? Fans could have whistles then.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of surprised that more fans don't do that. That they don't bring whistles. Like, thankfully they don't, because here we go. Like, what a distraction that would be. I've always wondered that. Why don't more fans bring whistles to games? Now, I'm not advocating you do this, folks. I'm not saying bring. No, I'm not.
Sponsored
don't bring
the sheet whistles being sold in a store near you.
Do not bring whistles to games. We do not need that in hockey. I'm just surprised that more don't. Okay, so to hockey. First of all, that was an awesome game. I'm not sure how much of that Colorado-Dallas game you caught on Sunday, but I know I know a lot of people gripe about the playoff format, the wild card format versus the 1v8, etc. But if I can get guaranteed that in the first round, I'll take it. The players are at the height of their powers. Their energy hasn't been drained. Give me 7 games of that in the opening round. Listen, we all go back to the 90s. Remember those Dallas-Colorado matchups, which were fantastic. Give me that era again. Shaina Goldman, your thoughts?
I knew that was going to be your argument. Like, it's in my head before you even said it. I'm like, he's going to say, this is when they're healthiest. This is when they can play the game best.
Yeah.
You make a good point. However, I disagree with you. And I'm not even going to get into my gripes with the playoff formatting. You can just stay tuned this week because there will probably be 1,500 words coming to you on Thursday about this. I am already writing about it with this matchup in mind.
Okay.
No, I mean, it sucks that this is going to be a round 1 matchup because you want to see... It feels like these are the 2 best in the West. No offense, Winnipeg, I'm sorry. But after the deadline, I feel like these are the 2 to stack up against. And the fact that one's going home in round 1, it honestly sucks. It's going to be the same conversation in the East if Florida and Tampa play each other in round 1. I would like to see it in round 2, preferably. And then you go on for the best of each division for round 3. That's my perfect world. But it's not about me.
Why? Hang on. Why does your perfect world consider the potential for injuries into the second round? Like, no one's getting out clean from those series. Like, no one's getting out like, ooh, that was easy. Let's have a quick glass of ice water and crack our knuckles and run to the second round. Like, you're assuming that this is going to be these teams are going to be fine. I want these teams at their healthiest. Give it to me in the opening round. That's what I want.
It just feels wrong to me. Like, you played 82 games in a way too long season to potentially lose in round 1 to a team that you should be playing later on. Like, I'm fine with seeing teams when they're not at 100% playing off against each other because now you're not at the height of your powers. Figure out a way to get there. Figure out a way to make up for what you're missing. And I think that's where the coaching is going to come into play and where other guys get a chance to shine too, which I think adds a really exciting element to the whole entire playoff picture. And it goes both ways, right? Like, you're both... Say you're at 90% after round 1. You're at 75% after round 1. You probably both are.
All right. You have a secondary argument to that one before I already cut you off once. Were you finishing a thought there, or are we going to move on?
Do you want to move on to the game itself?
Yeah, I thought the game was awesome. And holy smokes.
Awesome.
Cale, if you don't know it already, spoiler, Cale Makar is awesome. Cale Makar is really good. Like, what a play. Like, Shayna,
the entire game, the entire vibe, the fact that it's the Avs dominating for 2 periods, you're going, okay, Stars, like, I know you haven't had the best run since the deadline, and, I think they were, 1 and 2 going into it, that you're like, okay, like, I want to see you do a little bit more here, and obviously they do in the span of no time at all. I feel like we were so focused on the Mikko Rantanen and Marty Necas of it all, which is the biggest storyline, that you forget about the other guys in it, too. Like, Matt Duchene, there's a spite there, too. That's a former player. You have Kiviranta on the other side, like, I love how many ties there are between these 2 teams and the fact that, everything amped up in a span of 20, 30 seconds. I think that made for an even better result. And then going into the overtime, like, the game was top notch. Like, there you go. It had a playoff vibe. And then I think the third period brought the energy we really needed into overtime. And Cale Makar, like you said, he's incredible. And even that play with Nelson and McKinnon, like, I want to know more. Like, was that intentional? Because it didn't look like it. They almost collided. And Cale Makar just makes everything look easy around them.
He's like one of the best ways I ever heard Cale Makar described is, and maybe you can add to this one, if Connor McDavid decided to be a defenseman, he'd be Cale Makar. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I could see that because it's the finesse factor. But with Cale Makar, like, I don't even want to take away anything from him and compare him to someone else. a forward, because I look at it and I go, he's someone that's redefined the position. And I think he's redefined the way we talk about defensemen. Finally, somebody had to do it. And here it is in the modern era. And it's not just him. It's that wave of younger defensemen that came in together. It's him. It's Quinn Hughes. It's Adam Fox. And then you have someone like Charlie McAvoy who comes in at the same time and is still that throwbacky type. So I love thinking about the four of them together. And obviously the group has expanded. You have guys like Heiskanen and Noah Dobson coming up and Thomas Harley. Like, it's not just like, oh, there's one or two, but Cale Makar is like the premier defenseman at his position. He is unbelievable on both ends of the ice. And I know, yes, he has Taves, who's incredible as a partner, and he shares the ice with McKinnon a ton, and not everybody can say that they do, but he keeps up, he complements, he drives play from the back, and he does a little bit of everything. The skating is so smooth. He's so creative. He's so quick. And the way he anticipates the game, like every part of it, that if you want to build a perfect player, he's it.
The one area of his game that I don't think gets enough consideration, mainly because he doesn't always do it, because he doesn't have to, and he never chases it, he's a great hitter. Because he can close so fast. Like, how many times have you seen Cale Makar? And again, like, we don't put a premium on this because we're always talking about the skating and the edge work and look at this, it's effortless, like what a glide, all of that. Eichel's the king of glide, but Makar's right there. Like, all that stuff we always hear about him. That guy can hit, like, first of all, he's physically strong. And when you have skating the way that he does and the way he rubs guys out, and when he wants to just clobber someone, he can. Like, when he wants it, Cale Makar is like a punishing hitter. And it's just because he's so fast. He can just get there so quickly and unexpectedly.
He does everything. He literally does everything and more. It's incredible that in year one he was doing this. Before year one, he comes into the NHL and his transition to playoff hockey was as smooth as it could be. And he was just incredible. And that, it's funny when he was in the Norris conversation, what was it, last year? And it's like, well, he wasn't at the height of his own power. He wasn't at the top of his game. That bar was still very high. He was one of the best in the league. But he wasn't even the best version of himself. We saw it the year before. We're seeing it this year. And it just shows you, just how amazing he is.
I think he invented oxygen too. I'm going to have to check that. But I think he may have invented the air that we breathe. We'll check and get back to you on that one. Okay, so outside of that game, here's what I want to talk to you about. So like Minnie, I just want like the coolest atmosphere for the playoffs. I want like cool buildings with cool fans. And that changes sometimes from season to season, but there's always been one constant. I've always told people, hey, what should I do? Like, I'm a hockey fan. I'm a new hockey fan. What are the experiences I have to have? And I always say, you need to have Montreal, Saturday night, 7:01, lights come down, Coldplay hits, goes to the Forum, goosebumps on the arms, all of it. Montreal Canadiens. When you watch that top line, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, Caulfield. Wonderful, because they're three distinct personalities that all do three different things, which is so cool. And then here's like the mini Bergeron in Nick Suzuki here. Like, what do you see? And then when you peek under the hood at the underlyings, what do you see there?
Yeah, they are the drivers of that team, 100%. And it's so interesting to see over this last stretch how much they've taken over games. And, it's kind of limited because they're only going to play so many minutes a night, right? They're going to get power play opportunity. They're going to play on that top line, but they're not on the ice the entire time. But their impact is so strong when they are on the ice that it really helps carry things. And then obviously them paired with Sam Montembeault and net, like, you have a recipe for success, and you're seeing the cornerstones of this team come into place, which I think took for some longer than expected, and it hasn't been perfect. Like, Nick Suzuki went through a couple of years where I think he didn't hit his stride to the level that we know he can. But now you really see that two-way development over the last 2 or 3 seasons where you're like, wow, this is someone who's an elite 1C. And, Cole Caulfield, everyone always knocks his game because he's a shooter first. And I think that he brings a lot more to the table. And, that shooting is an amazing strength to have, because at the end of the day, like, goal scorers don't grow on trees, and he is a damn good one. And Slafkovsky too, like, you're seeing him, come into his own and be a key part of this line. They have a ton of chemistry because they played together for so long. And I think the coaches know when to put them together and when to get the team going with them. So all of it is nothing short of impressive.
3 players that have been either criticized heavily or passed over like unleavened bread, whether it's for Four Nations or Slafkovsky hearing about, oh, dud, bad first overall pick. Oh, look at him in the NHL. NHL is not a development league. Get him to Laval. Like, for very different reasons. Like, these guys each have a reason to have a burr under their saddle. That's why I love it. Like, they each have like their own fuel for all of this. And for a pair of them, it's, obviously Four Nations, but for Slafkovsky as well. Like, he's hurt it the first few years in his career for sure. And he's playing great.
Yeah, everyone is so harsh about first overall picks and top draft picks. Like, I could rant about this forever because, yes, Connor McDavid is incredible and Austin Matthews is incredible and they come in and make an instant impact, but not everybody can do it. Like, there were years Jack Hughes had a bad first season. Nico Hischier didn't make as much of an impact in his early years, and there was a lot of talk about that draft and, how many busts are coming out of that draft as well. Like, it happens every year. We are so spoiled by the very good players that sometimes you forget that not all first overall picks are built equally. And, they usually are drafted there for a reason because, one, they have the skill, and two, they have a higher percentage chance of getting to their potential sooner than later. But if it doesn't happen off the bat, like, it doesn't necessarily mean they're cooked. Also, if a team is drafting player first overall, sometimes they're really bad and they don't have the systems and foundations in place to support that first overall pick. So sometimes it doesn't just happen when you snap your fingers. Add in the COVID years, and now it's another shitstorm to consider. So I think that we're all so spoiled, and sometimes it takes a player a little bit longer, and we're seeing it with other top picks like Quentin Byfield and Alexis Lafreniere. Like, those are two other players that took a minute to hit their stride. So at least it's happening now. And I think you go through that, and maybe it adds a little sandpaper to their experience that, it wasn't perfect going in and you have to work a lot harder for this. So now you add that hardworking mentality that I'm sure he's gaining along the way with the high-end skills that he has, and he could be a damn good player.
Really quietly from that draft as well, Logan Cooley's had a really nice season for Utah.
Yes, he has.
He's really played great. Okay, a couple of things here, and then we're gonna let you get back on with your with your day. I do want to ask you about Vancouver. Hearing footsteps from St. Louis, but I want you to finish this sentence for me. Shaina Goldman, the Toronto Maple Leafs are blank.
Boring. Oh my goodness. Okay. I love watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I watch them every year. They are probably one of the teams I focus on the most. It's like the Oilers and the Leafs are the two teams. It's like, I want to catch everything. Teams like the Avs, they're exciting. They're interesting. And this year, I don't have the passion anymore. It's gone, and it's Craig Berube's fault, and it's Brad Treliving's fault because, like, I get the defensive structure that they wanted in place. I think forever you've heard it. The Maple Leafs need more defense. And I honestly disagree with that. And I disagree with the way they've gone about it this year. I think they've sucked out the life from this team. But now that you have this structure, maybe get some secondary scorers in place and you could be a lot more interesting, right? You have the defensive foundation you've built. You have defensive defensemen. You brought in guys like Tanev. Like, okay, you can make this work. And while I think Lawton and Carlo both answer what the Leafs needed, I still am looking for like a middle six scorer to add a little bit more pop behind the big guns, because now you're just adding to the pressure those big guns are already going to have in the postseason. I hate it all.
And that is the problem with, but the main problem for Toronto is right now, and when you look at how the money is allocated, it really shouldn't be. It's kind of like the playoffs. They can't score. Like with all this high powered, and again, we keep coming back to this idea of, what's wrong with Austin Matthews? What's the injury, the illness, the whatever. But all of a sudden now the Maple Leafs have a pop gun offense. Like, this is not the way it was supposed to be for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they're facing off against the Calgary Flames tonight. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Toronto has, and they're going to go up against a guy who, if you pressured me right now to vote for the Calder, I'd probably tell you it's the Calgary netminder Dustin Wolf over all those other guys, including Lane Hudson and Macklin Celebrini, etc. All right, now then. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, why should you be not just scared, not just like, oh, this is an annoying little mosquito, go away, but why should you be terrified of the St. Louis Blues right now? Maybe phrase this better. Should you be terrified of the St. Louis Blues right now? How about that?
Well, you have Quinn Hughes back, so that's huge right there, because he is a difference maker among difference makers, right? He's as good as it gets. And the numbers, the on-ice swings and like shots, scoring chances, goals when he's on the ice versus the bench, it's absolutely unbelievable. So you should feel a lot better. And if Elias Pettersson is back, which maybe he is, he had a really, really good game against Flames, you have something that you could take a little bit of solace in and say, okay, that wild card spot is going to be theirs. Great and wonderful. But the Blues are right there, and it's really interesting because that is not the team I expected to be disrupting them for a playoff spot. My eyes were on Utah a little bit more, but I thought they would have done something at the deadline to add to the fact that they're a healthy team, but they didn't. But the Blues 5-on-5 game has been so good. If we use 4 Nations as our benchmark, feels like the right time to do it because that's a break in the season. They have a 58% expected goal rate. The only team that's higher than them in that is Utah. The difference is that they're scoring more in those minutes. They're outscoring opponents 33-20. So some of it is really good goaltending. Some of it's the fact that they're converting on their chances. And, you can't PDO your way into the playoffs sustainably and be a really good team. And that might be true. But also you have to make your own luck and you have to find ways to sustain the really good goaltending and the shooting. And that's by generating a lot of offense at 5-on-5 and playing good defense. And they're doing both of that. The issue for them is special teams. So if you're Vancouver, you can keep that in mind. Like, how deep are you really going to go down the stretch if your special teams on both ends of the ice are bad? And they are completely and totally bad for the Blues. But I like that they're making this more of a race than I think anyone saw coming.
Quick thought. I call the audible here before Conor McGahey from the Avalanche comes aboard. Quick thought on the Ottawa Senators. Huge games tomorrow, Montreal and Ottawa. I never thought that we'd be here March 17th talking about how important this game is to the Eastern Conference, but here we are, and we've talked about the Habs. You have a thought on the Sens going into tomorrow night?
Yeah, they've been great. I think they're finally creating some offense to back up the defense. They worked on that defense all year. We've seen them get better with their structure, but now the offense is finally starting to come along because you could see their shooting percentage was really low earlier this season. But the fact was, like, their offensive creation below that also was really poor. So it's not like they were doing enough to even generate good looks. Now they're starting to do that. Pair that with Linus Ullmark and net. Like, you have a pretty good recipe for success. And it feels like they are that Atlantic Division up and coming team that finally is going to make the playoffs. And now we might even be having conversations about could they jump into the top 3 seeds, which who saw that one coming?
Who's in the most trouble here? Like, I know like the default is always, okay, look at the when the Maple Leafs, Brian Burke came up with, the 18-wheeler goes off the road, but it very much does feel like that. So maybe the answer is Toronto, but you're looking around the playoff teams here. Who's in the most trouble for you?
Are you saying teams already in playoff spots or in the wild card picture?
In playoff spots. Or maybe if you're like poised to completely fall out of the playoffs. And by the way, I don't know if they can do this, but can Pittsburgh do this? Or are they just going to run out of runway? Am I just believing in Crosby too much? I just look at that and I look at the games and I'm like, I don't know. Like, give Crosby a challenge. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the team I'm actually a little bit worried about right now is Columbus, and I was looking at their schedule, and they play Ottawa, I think, 3 more times. Like, they're going to be playing a lot of teams that have a lot invested in this, so I think that's a tough look for them. But I think if they don't make it, it's like, okay, whatever, no one expected them to be here. So the pressure, I think, goes down a little bit for them. So I guess I'm changing my answer already. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Leafs because I think if you end up as first place in your division, you're in a little bit better shape to go against one of those wildcard teams. Unless, of course, naturally it's Ottawa, which please let that happen. But I think it's tough because I know Florida's going through it at the same time. But you saw the Leafs against the Panthers, and you go, I don't think the Leafs should want to play Tampa in round 1 either. I don't like the matchup for them against either Florida team to get into the playoffs. I think they need to get past round 1 against a worse opponent, and then maybe they can heat up as they go. But they're the easy one because I think they're the team with the most to lose at this point, right?
So I'm glad you mentioned Columbus too, and like that's the team that all of us have been cheering for all season long, right? We're all like mourning the loss of the Gaudreau brothers, and really want Columbus to do well, want Calgary to do well. For the same reasons. And tonight they're going with an all-Russian line. I'm not sure if you've seen this. So they've got Chinnikov on the left, Voronkov in the middle, and Kirill Marchenko on the right. Here's what I would put to everybody listening and watching right now. Maybe you want to weigh in on this as well. Is there, it's going to sound harsh, but here I go. Is there another player in the NHL other than Yegor Chinnikov who shoots as hard as he does and misses the net more than he does? There was a guy, I'm going to really sound like an old here, Shayna, and you're going to go like, who's that old man? There was a guy when I was growing up by the name of Gaston Gingras, who was a defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens, and he could blast it. The problem is he would wind up and the season ticket holders would all duck. He just could not hit the net, but man, did he have a hammer of a shot. Chinnikov is that guy too. Now, I don't know if you have a thought on this one, if there is a player who shoots it harder and misses the net more consistently than Yegor Chinnikov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's always, I always look for like the game within the game and the little things that amuse me. Just love watching him hammer it just wide, just over the crossbar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like guys like Mika Zibanejad were in that boat earlier this season, or like an Alex Ovechkin. But like honestly, it's giving like FIFA vibes, because when I'm learning to play and like when you shoot in FIFA, it is unreal. It's like, don't press the button too hard, or that is ripping over the net. And then the commentators absolutely roast you for it. They're like, wow, that was a horrible opportunity, and it really had promise till they shot the puck. And you're like, oh my God, I'm terrible. So that is what I'm thinking about now. Like when you're talking about it, he has a very hard shot. He misses enough. But I think with a good skills coach, like, that's something you can rein in, and you know when to use that shot. And if he can figure out how to shoot the puck maybe a little less hard, and work on his accuracy, he'll have way more weapons at his disposal.
You can blow pucks past goaltenders in the NHL. I swear, all the common logic goes out the way. You can do it. Just you're not shooting hard enough. Just try to shoot harder, Chinnikov. I just love watching him. It's just one of my favorite things to watch. Just hammer the puck, Shayna.
It's more fun that way. It's like when a player goes in on a breakaway and like rips a slap shot, and people are like, why did they do that? Like, that would be my move.
Every time.
I love that.
Do you have Chara would do it, Hossa would do it, old schoolers will remind you about Brian Rolston would do that as well. Do you have a favorite come in and just wind up, like back scratch and slap shot? For me, it's those
Claude
three.
Giroux doing it.
Claude Giroux, yes, like good one.
He has done it, and I feel like he's not talked about enough, Claude Giroux. Like, I will not stand for this. He is such a good player still, and you look at the age distribution on Ottawa, and how he is one of the oldest guys there, or the oldest guy there, and he's still one of the best players on the team, and he's so good on both ends of the ice. But for me, like, that is it. You see him come in all alone, whether it's a shootout or a breakaway, and I want to know what he's going to do.
I'm with you, 100%. You're the best. Okay, great design, great fashion.
Thank you.
Give me that all day. Did you make that one, by the way? I know you're into.
Yes, I did. It was like a kid sweatshirt, so I added a zipper to it.
Awesome, love it. Okay, you be good. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll check back soon.
Thanks for having me.
There she is, the great Shaina Goldman from The Athletic and the Too Many Men podcast. And you can listen / see her regularly here on this program. Kind of everywhere I've gone, I've dragged Shayna along with me, sometimes kicking and screaming. Although I keep winning hockey bets with Team Canada, so like she owes me a lot of. We bet dill pickle chips. She's lying to me and saying that the place that she buys them say that it's only a summer chip, and that's only when it's available. But nonetheless, okay, let's turn our attention now to Conor McGahey as the play-by-play voice of the Colorado Avalanche, coming off that. I got to say, Connor, outstanding game that we saw on Sunday. And I know that as the play-by-play voice, you have certain responsibilities and duties and obligations. But when you're watching Cale Makar and Valeri Nichushkin, Arturi Lehkonen, and Nathan McKinnon, of course, like, are there some points where you just say, I'm just going to be a fan right now for a couple of moments and take this all in. I'm going to get back to doing all the janitorial work of the play-by-play in a second.
You know, if anyone classifies play-by-play work as janitorial work, they got more problems than we know what to do with. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I think, and I speak for everybody at altitude, both television and radio, when we're fans first. And that's how we approach things. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we ride the roller coaster with everybody. And the roller coaster with Cale Makar, McKinnon, and everybody that you mentioned before, it's always a fun one, right? It's a nightly basis of the greatest hockey on earth, and so that's where we're extra fortunate. And games like yesterday are a perfect example of that, with some late heroics there, or early heroics if you're talking about overtime from Cale Makar.
I'll tell you, like, it is. It's clearly a candidate for the game of the year. It was so much fun to watch. I can only imagine actually being there to document all of it. You know, one of the things that I was mentioning, Shayna Goldman from The Athletic was just on me a couple of seconds ago on the Too Many Men podcast. And we were talking about Cale Makar, and like we got to the point where pretty much, okay, this guy also invented oxygen. But one of the things that, and let's say, listen, you've been there to document all of it, so this will come as no surprise to you. Like, one of the sneaky good skills that he does have, and mainly because of his skating and how quickly he can get into position for it, and he is strong, he's a really sneaky good hitter. Like, I know we focus on the skating and all the effortless to the neutral zone and great shot. You saw that yesterday, but Connor, you know this. That guy's a sneaky good hitter all day long.
Well, and I've said this for years, Jeff, is like his technique is almost perfect, right? And it's not every shift where he's going to go out there and try and line a guy up, right? But if the opportunity presents itself, I mean, you're going to get all that power from the legs right through your sternum, and it's going to throw you off balance and likely down to the ice. And, you know, I've also said this for a long time. Him and his defensive partner, Devon Taves, are two of, if not the two best one-on-one defenders outside of Jacob Slavin in the National Hockey League. They really are. But you're right. Everyone always talks about Cale Makar's skating ability and how does one's hips do that? Right? You know, how do you get it to do that? Are you quadruple jointed, or what's the case there? But no one ever talks about the physical nature that Cale Makar can provide. Maybe A, because he's not the biggest body on the ice, but two, because he has all these rhinestones in the rest of his game, and you forget that there's a hammer in there, and shows up from time to time, and it's just a gentle or not so gentle reminder that he's a complete hockey player.
So here's the how does it work question, because we've seen managers tinker with their teams before, especially teams that have Stanley Cup aspirations. But this is an organization that swapped out both goaltenders, swapped out a future Hall of Famer, brought in Natchez, brought in Nelson, brought in Coyle, brought in Drury, brought in Lindgren. Like this isn't just like tinkering all season long. And, the organization got at it early as well, like identified and actively went out there and said, all right, this goaltending's not going to do it. We're not going to get undone by poor goaltending. We've seen that movie before, and we're going to change it. The common wisdom is always, you have a good team, don't change it too much. But these are sizable moves here that the Avalanche have made, and you watch them play and you say to yourself, this is like an Olympic diver into water, no ripple. Can you explain this, Conor McGahey?
Well, I think I can explain it by, a general manager's job is to make the team the best that they can be. And I think, over the past couple of years, post-Stanley Cup win in 2022, I don't want to call them Band-Aids or bandages on things, but when you have departures of key players, and obviously everyone goes to Nazem Kadri, number one, in that regard, but you're trying to fill in unfillable holes. And I think it takes a season or two to sort of determine which route your team is taking with the core pieces intact. And I have to give Chris MacFarland all the credit in the world for having all the courage in the world to identify points of weakness and being able to, not just fill them with mediocre. Because I would not call Mackenzie Blackwood a mediocre goaltender. I would not call Scott Wedgwood a mediocre goaltender. I would call Scott Wedgwood the best backup goaltender in the National Hockey League for a myriad of reasons. And then you went from probably being one of the most questionable teams down the middle in the National Hockey League to all of a sudden probably being the deepest team in the National Hockey League down the middle. With Drury, who at one point was your third-line center, and now, you have more centers, including Parker Kelly, than you know what to do with.
Yeah.
And the Brock Nelson, I think, shocked a couple people that the Avs were able to get him. But then I think the real surprise was Charlie Coyle from Boston. Yeah. They really put it over the top. So, again, it has to do with self-awareness, which the Avalanche had. They weren't kidding themselves that I think the roster over the past two seasons was okay, but I'm not sure it was good enough to win in the Central Division, much less in the entire Western Conference. So self-awareness and courage were the two attributes here, and that's why for me, given all that's gone on, no matter what happens to the Avalanche in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Chris MacFarland should get the Jim Gregory Award this year.
He's been exceptional. I think he's clearly a candidate. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, for me, the number one candidate for the Jim Gregory General Manager of the Year of the award is not even a general manager anymore, and that's Brian McClellan, who pieced out after he made all those moves. And, Chris Patrick is there, and he made a couple of moves himself. But listen, McFarland's right there as well. That shouldn't be a secret.
Sure.
Let me ask you about one play. Shayna and I were just talking about this a second ago as well. McKinnon and Nelson. Is that what was that? Is that like a set play? Is that an accident? Is that what is that? What did we see?
Cale was asked about it. Was it a set play afterwards? Because you had the near it's the old George Carlin line. It's not a near miss. It was a near hit.
Yeah.
Right there at the blue line. And then Brock Nelson almost fakes like he's going to the bench for a change, but then he stays on the ice. And all this calamity allows Cale. And look, it didn't even completely catch Dallas by surprise because you look back, Cale Makar basically still beats 3 guys in order to score the overtime winner. But Cale was asked afterwards if it was a set play. He said no. It wasn't. It just sort of worked out. But, this all comes on the heels of, the Stars had possession after the opening faceoff of overtime. And then, of all people, Mikko Rantanen is offside. So you get that neutral zone draw that Brock Nelson wins. And then the next charge up the ice is Cale Makar in the back of the net, and the game is over. But yeah, it could it ended fun, but it could have ended horribly, much more horribly if you have 2 big bodies and McKinnon and Nelson come together, and then the Stars pretty much have a 3-on-1 the other way.
Okay, a couple of minutes here left with you. I want to go over one of your tweets that we had a lot of fun with on the show last week. I just loved it.
Boy.
I mean, you're a smart guy. I love, dude, I saw this tweet. And I'm like, this is catnip for me. This is fantastic, Conor. Thank you so much. This is
I feel
awesome.
like the spirit world sort of typed it with you in mind, Jeff.
Bless you, Conor. Bless you.
Yes, going way back because we've had this conversation for years.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. Our brains are symbiote on this one. Trust me. Yeah. So your tweet last week, March 12th. 11:10
This is on the heels, for context, by the way, of the most boring overtime in the history, arguably, 3-on-3, where Minnesota just had possession on their side of the red line for 4.5 out of 5 minutes. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's the 4 minutes of neutral zone regroups. Oh, we got nothing. We're going to regroup. Oh, it's a 72 Soviet Red Army all over again.
Yeah,
okay.
Somebody pinched me. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Am I going to watch this overtime, Conor? Am I going to go sort out my sock drawer? I'm not exactly sure. The socks are calling.
I was able to do both somehow.
Okay. Hockey, this is your tweet. Hockey in the NHL is great. That's true. 3 changes to make it better. Number 1, 1-8 playoffs, or 1-16 if you want to get crazy. They still do that in the Quebec League. Reseed. Yep. Number 2, no shootout. Number 3, can't go back across the red line in overtime. Now, for the 1-8 playoffs, I was talking about this earlier, and either way, right now, it's a fun matchup for the Avalanche in the first round. It's either Dallas, Colorado, give me 7, or Edmonton. Yeah. So take your pick. So from a Colorado point of view, on point with that one. Let me share one with you that every year there's one that I just get fixated on, and I just have this brain that I can't let go of it. What I would like to see is, outside of the start of the period or after a goal, no face-offs in the neutral zone. So if you go offside, it goes back to your zone. Keep the puck around the net. When the puck's being dropped in the neutral zone, there's no chance of there's no chance to score. Would you snuggle up here on with Camp Marek that get rid of neutral zone faceoffs? Faceoffs should always be around the net because we should always be in a position to score a goal. Agree, disagree?
I think agree because, one of the talking points and the modus operandi of the league, pretty much post 05 lockout was more offense, right?
Yes.
More offense. And that, it leads to another pet peeve of mine, the puck over glass is a power play. I think that we can achieve both things and not give that the same punishment as a slash or a hook, but that's maybe a discussion for another time.
1 minute penalty. Your point, 1 minute minor. 1 minute penalty. How about that?
I was saying treat it like an icing. Again, defensive zone face-off, no change, and then you accomplish all your goals, and you don't have to get a power play for something that was likely not intentional in the 2025 game. But to your point, anything because an offensive, it's not a scoring chance in offensive zone face-off, but the odds are higher for scoring chances.
Pucks around the net.
With pucks around the net. Absolutely.
Pucks around the net.
So I can set up my tent in Camp Marek on that one.
Okay, you're aboard. We'll send you your card shortly. Listen, Conor, you're the best.
Thank you very much.
Always appreciate it. You're one of the finest callers out there, and you're one of the sharpest brains. And not just because you agree with me on this neutral zone face-off idea, but glad to see you on the camp of the good side here. Conor, you be well. Enjoy the Avs down the stretch.
Yes, Jeff, you do the same. Thanks for calling. Appreciate you.
He's the best. He's Conor McGahey. He's the play-by-play voice of the. Can you imagine that, Philly? What's your assignment? like I always feel bad for I think one of the most underrated play-by-play voices in the NHL is Dan Dunleavy of the Buffalo Sabres. It's a tough gig, right? Like there's some really tough hockey that he's got to call. Like Buffalo's always been blessed with great play-by-play voices. Ted Darling, the best. Rick Jenneret. Dan Dunleavy is an excellent play-by-play caller, but he's got to watch a lot of tough games and call a lot of tough games. What a joy, like, Conor McGahey has calling Avs games. Like, seriously. So you get to watch that every night, and you get to sit there, and then, like, I'd be like, every 2 weeks a paycheck would show up, and someone would yell, "Stop thief." Like, really? You going to pay me? You going to pay me too? This is amazing. What did I do in a previous life to, like, pull a family out of a burning house? And now I get to call Avs games? This is amazing. Wow, man, this is great. What a saint I was in a different life. Good gig.
I know. I've said it a few times. Like, I think Connor McDavid's the best player in the league. My favorite player to watch is Nathan McKinnon.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Cale Makar.
Nathan McKinnon for me. I mean, I love Cale Makar, but it's Nathan McKinnon for me. Like, just to be able to watch that and call that every single night. And then, oh, by the way, throw in the guy you just mentioned, Cale Makar. He's also on the team.
And then Valerian Nichushkin's a treat. And Arturi Lekkonen's a treat. Like, keep going.
Insane.
Okay, we got to clean up a few things here. Let's get to a couple of let's get to some of the games, and then you can. Oh, you know what we got to do? We got to do our new favorite team. We got to rebalance our universe here on the sheet. But first, games tonight around the NHL. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. These roster updates from Daily Faceoff's fantasy Twitter feed. We got games. You like games? We got games. We got games tonight. Let's just call this one up here. I got a dumb fact for you. So we got 5 games tonight. First one, Buffalo and Boston. Okay? Sneaky good. The olds will know this one. Adams Division rivalry. Do you know what the Adams Division was, son?
I've heard of it, yes.
Oh, dagger, I've heard of it. Oh, my fainting couch. My fainting couch. Where is it? Did you know, like, this was so much of a rivalry. These teams really did not get along for so long. The first trade made between these two teams, keep in mind, Buffalo came into the NHL in 1970. These two teams didn't make a deal. And I know people are going to say, well, Peter McNabb and Andre Savard, that was compensation for a free agent signing. Everybody calm down. The first official trade didn't happen until 2009. Danny Paille. You know, like teams that don't get along.
Yeah.
Just don't make trades. Hello, Edmonton, Calgary. Hello, Montreal, Quebec. Like they're very, very few and far between. It took until 2009 for the Sabres and the Boston Bruins to actually make a trade. And then they made a trade that became, you know, part of the Merlot line with Gregory Campbell and Sean Thornton and Stanley Cup and all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen starts tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. JG Peterka, Josh Norris, Yuri Kulich out for the Buffalo Sabres. Jonas Korpisalo starts tonight. Dan Dunleavy with the call tonight for the Buffalo Sabres, one of the most underrated play-by-play callers. And also, I should throw in Brian Duff, one of the most underrated hosts for a team out there. Philadelphia Flyers face off against the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight. The New Jersey Devils take on the Columbus Blue Jackets at Nationwide Arena. Jake Allen starts. Daniel Sprong is out. Eric Holla, Hall of Famer, is in for Daniel Sprong. Mentioned the all-Russian line, Chinnikov, Voronkov, and Marchenko. Tonight, the Jackets have lost 3 in a row. Do you have an answer or a thought on the idea of the player who shoots the hardest and misses the net more than Yegor Chinnikov?
No, Laz said Bronzinski in there.
Okay, yeah. Or are you gonna say Dion Phaneuf just to upset all your
No. You know, the one thing that sticks to my mind every time anybody ever talks about missing the net, and it doesn't fit in this category of hardest shot, the Cody Ceci one-timer when the Leafs were in the bubble playoffs. Like, I will never, ever forget that shot. Ever.
Let it go, man. Let it go.
It doesn't fit for this. No, it's not even being upset about it. It's so unbelievably, like, comedic, I guess is maybe the right word, but Yeah, it doesn't fit in to answer your question, but I always think about that. You asked me earlier, and I was like, that's all I could think of.
What did Laz say?
Johnny Brodzinski said.
Really, eh?
Yeah, that's
shoots hard and misses? All right.
Yeah.
Anybody remember Mark Mancari? I know I'm really reaching on one here. Mark Mancari, Buffalo Sabres, Rochester Americans. I think he played more than a few games in the NHL, but that guy could just... God, could he hammer it. Okay, anyway. How's your liver, by the way? Did you give it a rinse yesterday? Yeah? Okay, because your Leafs are playing the Calgary Flames tonight. The Leafs are playing the Flames tonight. Who's that young whippersnapper Calgary's got in net there? Who's that young guy? That young whippersnapper. Who's that guy? Is he any good? That Dustin fella?
Look, I'm telling you, if there's not a response here tonight, like this is nightmare fuel. Like we're talking about a goaltender who could potentially win the Calder here. Probably deserves to be higher in the odds than where he is against a team that cannot generate offense.
And although management types, owners maybe owners as well, aren't allowed to put money on the board.
Seriously.
Between the Calgary Flames and Brad Treliving, I assure you. A little something extra in your envelope, son, for that game-winning goal. You didn't get this from me.
Yeah. Look, also quickly, I just want to jump in and say, Shayna said, this is thanks to Berube, and this is thanks to Tree Living. Look, my pushback on this is, and you kind of brought it up, you're paying those guys, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Morgan Riley, that much money. Yep. Do you know how hard it is to fill in scoring throughout the remainder of the lineup? I hate that people blame the bottom. And then the other thing I just want to say, and maybe this is me trying to give a pass to Berube, and maybe I'm going to be proven wrong at some point here, but I think that regardless of if you like the structure and the defense and all that kind of stuff, I think that the style he wants them to play is at least a little bit more geared towards playoff hockey, just in terms of let's play a little bit heavier and stuff. I just think that the guys you have in that room can't play it. And by the guys I have in that room, I mean the guys you're paying all the money to. I just wanted to say that because I disagreed a bit with what she was saying, and I don't like that Berube is catching all this heat. I think that the players in there are getting off the hook here a little bit.
You know what's really hard to do as a coach in the NHL? Like really, really hard. Like almost impossible.
Win the Stanley Cup because only one team does it, as Brian Burke has reminded us.
He checks with the league every morning. He calls. Still, only one cup. No. You know what's really hard to do if you're a coach in the NHL? Win a Stanley Cup with two different teams. You know how many times it's happened in the history of the NHL? The history that goes back to 1917.
I can't even think of... I can't think of any. 3?
Scotty Bowman.
3.
Dick Irvin. Tommy Gorman. That's it.
Well,
I know it's always, we got a coach that's won the Stanley Cup. That's a curse.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened 3 times, folks. We got a Stanley Cup coach. That's not how it works. It's only happened 3 times in the history of the NHL. I know you're going to go to the internet machine to try to prove that I'm wrong.
No, I'm not.
I'm going
to bank that note for later today and tell everybody in the Leafs Nation After Dark chat, just scrap it. Like, it's over. Yeah, Vic in the chat. Thanks, Jeff. Yeah,
no problem there, Vic. Yeah, just throw a little...
I feel so much better now.
Hey, I'm just trying to spread some sunshine here. Just truthing on you, Philly. Just truthing on you. Also, the Los Angeles Kings, the red hot winners of 5 in a row, Los Angeles Kings. You want to throw a little bit of spice onto that one. Kemper and Gustafsson start. They'll face off against the Minnesota Wild tonight. Here's a question that Colby Cohen posed today. I can't remember whether it was Morning Cup of Hockey or it was Daily Face-Off Live. He was on both. And I'll be honest with you, there was a part of me that wanted to call him today and say, hey, can you come on the show today? Just so we could hit the trifecta and like just really abuse Colby today. Just like, you're gonna do the hat trick today. You're gonna do the gauntlet today. Yeah, you want to earn the job. This is how you earn the job. You're doing all 3 shows. You're owning 2 more. He brought up a great point. Really, really good point. And that is, if the playoffs started today in the wild card format and it's Edmonton facing off against the Los Angeles Kings, all season long we've said, Edmonton wins that one. Still saying that? Still saying Edmonton? If it starts right now, you still saying Edmonton wins that series?
No. I mean, I will be
man.
honest. I've had a little bit more doubt with Edmonton for a little bit longer because I've been concerned about goaltending there and just some of the defensive depth. But yeah, it's really coming to bubble into the surface here now.
You know who's won 7 in a row?
All's well in Canada in those Canadian hockey markets, Jeff.
You know who's won 7 in a row?
The Sens? No,
Carolina
Sens are what?
Sens won 6 in a row. Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah.
Let's keep on chugging along.
Remember the vibe.
Remember the vibe. If we win, people will love us. If we lose, people will hate us. Everything in between is noise.
Yeah.
Everything in between is noise.
Did you see the stats since Rantanen left Carolina? I can't remember who tweeted it out. I think they're 4-0-0 since he left, and Dallas is like 1-2-2. I believe that was the stat. I might be wrong on that. So, I mean, I think that says you always say.
So what are you doing?
What's the saying you always say, Jeff?
Doug
if you want to get facts right, you got to pay us more.
Oh, dude, if you want like correct information, I'm sorry. Like you're gonna have to pay us more if you want us to like prepare for the show and bring proper information. I'm sorry. Like we're gonna have to renegotiate our deal here, Philly. It's not the way it's gonna be.
You need more money.
All right, speaking of good deals, here's an awesome one. Canada, your favorite contest is back. Roll Up to Win is back at Tim Hortons, and that means you could win millions of amazing prizes with just the swipe of a thumb. Imagine turning your routine Tim's run into an unforgettable vacation with Sell-Off Vacations, a $1,000 Rakuten cash prize, or an all-new, all-electric 2025 Volkswagen ID Buzz. Even the simple joy of winning a free coffee or donut can make anyone's day, but you only have until March 23rd. That's coming up. So open up that Tim's app and get rolling. This is our game, Canada. Don't let this chance at winning millions of amazing prizes pass you by. Play Roll Up to Win on the Tim's app now. Rules apply. Canada only. No purchase necessary. Visit the Tim's app for details. We need to realign the universe as we finish the program today. The interview that we did last week with Lance Lasowski from the Buffalo News, I think afterwards we were looking for funeral curtains and cadaver gloves.
Yeah.
You like the gray
I felt so bad
cadaver
for
gloves
too.
or the purple cadaver gloves? Which one do you like better? Like it was, man, like it was awful. Like by the end of that conversation, like
it's dark.
How was your drive, Mrs. Kennedy? Like it was bad. It was awful. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But so we want to as we wrap up the show here. We mentioned this on Friday, I think, maybe Thursday. We want to recalibrate the universe and give it some balance. So from here on in, we are going to document and follow and celebrate that which is the greatness of the Buffalo Sabres American Hockey League affiliate, the legendary Rochester Americans, who are amongst the top team in the American Hockey League. Only one game on the weekend, Rochester over Providence. Took a shootout, Rochester 4, Providence 3. Eric Brandstrom, his third goal in 2 games in the American Hockey League for Roch. Is Brandstrom going to be that guy who's too good for the American League and just not quite there? Not quite there for the NHL. Mason Jobst with his 15th. Isak Roseyan with his 27th. Devin Levi, excellent, again for the Rochester Americans. They have the tough weekend. They have the dreaded American Hockey League weekend of 3-3. Can't do that in the NHL. It's against the CBA. They face off against Charlotte on Friday. They take on Syracuse in Syracuse. Great old rink. Part of Slapshot was filmed there, by the way. Facing off against the Syracuse Crunch on Saturday, and then they'll take on the Utica Comets at home at Blue Cross on Sunday. Go Rochester. Go. Rookie head coach Michael Leone. Help them turn players into stars. Noah Ostland is going to be a household name one of these days. Great two-way player. As we try to make good with the Buffalo Sabres, because we just trounced on them last week with Lance. Kind of felt bad a little bit. I mean, just pointing out what's there. But just try to balance the universe a little bit. If you're a Buffalo Sabres fan, Your American Hockey League team is awesome. Problem is, you're in a division with Laval, and they're a juggernaut. Might be the best team in the American League, but nonetheless, Rochester's got a shot at this thing, Philly. Rochester's got a shot at this thing, damn it.
Yep, I'm going to have fun tracking this one. Obviously, I get to make the boards of that. So as this goes along and this 3-3 wraps up, updating this at the end, I'll put some standings in there maybe.
Ooh,
we'll get fancy with this stuff. Yeah.
All right. Rochester Player of the Week. Do all of it.
Oh, there you go.
All right. You down with that?
Yeah, I like that. The Rochester Player of the Week will become the official Rochester Americans pod.
We're just
or unofficial.
Roch Pod, right here. Here we go. Roch Pod.
Roch Pod.
3 to 4 Eastern on your Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.
Welcome to the Roch Pod. It's a sheet show.
Yeah, that's a cool sound, actually. Welcome to the Roch Pod. All right. Speaking of boards, did we go over everything today? All of our fancy production? Did we go over all of our video? Did we actually deliver on what we said we were going to talk about? We actually talked about? Because there was a lot today.
We got it all.
We're good?
You got it all.
You good? You ready for
Great
tonight?
Show
Give your liver a rinse?
You did an awesome job.
You good?
Ready for tonight. It's a loaded question. I don't know.
Either way, you're on afterwards. You're on afterwards.
Yes.
Are you flying solo today? You dragging someone on with you?
I'm taking calls tonight, actually. I don't have anyone booked, so I'm going to take calls. That's what I wanted the show to be. That's how I started all of this, was taking calls from listeners. I used to listen, like, you do it with your kids, and I used to do it where I'd miss games. So I would consume a lot of Leafs hockey by hearing the post-game shows and Andy Frost and those guys and taking calls and hearing lunatic Leafs fans call in and lose
Micah Buffalo.
I was like, nobody does this
now an awesome
anymore.
Reporter. Micah Buffalo has turned this into a career. Excellent reporter, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, nobody does this anymore. Why don't I try it? And I've been doing it for a while. I've been doing it for like 3-4 years, where I take callers on the show.
My favorite part of listening to Leaf Talk with Andy Frost. And I got to work with Andy at Chorus for a number of years. I grew up like loving Psychedelic Sunday. I used to go to his events at the Phoenix Concert Theater. What was it called? Strange Paradise. Did these like crazy psychedelic nights. Was awesome. Andy's a great guy. He's the father, by the way, folks, of Morgan Frost of the Calgary Flames, who you'll see in action tonight against Philly's Toronto Maple Leafs. But I got the chance to work with Andy for a number of years, and it was so cool. Longtime in-house announcer for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ken Dryden, who used to listen to Andy on the radio when he was president of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was Ken Dryden's choice, I believe, as in-house announcer for the Maple Leafs, and like legend in not just Toronto radio, but like a legend in Canadian radio. That Psychedelic Sunday show that he did, that was a mainstay of mine. I mean, every Sunday morning, get up, wash the car, put on Psychedelic Sunday. Every single Sunday. It was always a great show, too. And he was awesome. My favorite part about Leaf Talk was the people that called with things like, I think we can get Yager for Ponikarovsky in a second. Yeah, that's what those guys.
Yep.
Give me those.
That's what people do.
I know. It's true.
It's fun. And people will be losing it after the last 2 games, but we'll see what happens tonight.
I'm sure everybody will be level-headed tonight with you, Philly. Don't worry. Okay, give it a quick plug. Where can people listen and watch? And what time?
On the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Goes live immediately following the game tonight. I think 7:30 game for Prime, so probably about 10 o'clock. That's when we'll be on there. I'll start it off, and then a link will be in the chat there. You can call into the show if you want to.
Super Chats get you what?
I don't have anything planned here tonight, like special. I just read all of the comments and the questions that come in. Saturday night was different.
Money raised for
Sick Kids charity. Yeah, awesome. Sick Kids. Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, $500 on Saturday night. Yeah.
Watch Philly abuse himself to raise money for sick kids. His heart's in the right place. His head.
Yeah.
Your mother and I are very concerned about you. Very, very concerned about you. All right. Good luck, Zach. Good luck, young man.
Thanks.
On behalf of Zach Phillips, Marek signing off here. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Shayna Goldman from The Athletic and the Too Many Men podcast. Thank you to Conor McGahey, the play-by-play voice of the Colorado Avalanche. Tomorrow is Tuesday, and that means the return from vacation. Who takes vacation in hockey season? I've always found that weird. Of Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. So very much looking forward to that. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll chat about them tomorrow right here on The Sheet. Talk to you in 23 hours. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.